Right, so welcome back to the Knock On Effect, the rugby podcast where we say what the pundits won't. Now, there's long since been a connection between Munster men and South Africans. Jean Klein, BJ Botha, Jean de Villiers, and today we're going to continue on in a similar sense. We have Springbok fan, you probably know him from his rugby YouTube, the Kick On Rugby. We have Dane Shera. Dane, how are you, mate?
What's up, guys? How are we doing? Thanks for the call up, man. I've been waiting on the bench for the call up. I've got the call up. I'm ready to go.
Oh, well, we're thrilled to have you. We're absolutely thrilled to have you, Dane. Look, we're going to get stuck into Ireland, Andy Farrell, everything Six Nations, really, but we're going to talk more about kind of Andy Farrell and Ireland as we go. I think the best way to do it is just to get stuck in. So, kicking us off anyway, first and foremost, because it's been an absolutely mad tournament so far. I don't think anybody's expected the results that have kind of progressed over the last while. So we're going to start off with Wales, really. So have you seen a huge amount of progression this tournament, then, in terms of Wales, first and foremost?
I definitely think so. Like, they've gone from the first game versus no, it wasn't France. They lost their first game, right? And that was, so Ireland played France, sorry. Wales, England, right?
It was
so
England
they got pumped
first, yeah.
England first. They got pumped in their first game, right? The next game, a little bit better. The next game, a little bit better. So Scotland, they were leading for most of that game. Let's be honest, Scotland are lucky that Finn Russell plays for them. Otherwise, Wales would have won that one. There's always, even during the time where they've lost that many games on the trot, there's always that little bit of fight within that Welsh side. And I think it's something that has been brewing. It is there. They've got guys now that are starting to string performances together, like individuals, your Wainwrights, Louis Rees-Zammit, Daffin Jenkins, Dowie Lake, Thomas Williams. These guys are starting to string consistent good games together. And I said it in one of my reviews, is that those are like five guys, right? Then you get a sixth guy starting to play well, then a seventh guy, and it kind of just has that domino effect. And I think that's what's happening here. Hopefully Tandy, that's the head coach, right? Hopefully he can stay on for a while. Like, they give him a good time to really grab hold of the squad and work with them. Because there's something there. There's definitely improvement, 100%.
Yeah, I think I'm the same, just kind of from watching them. Now, as I said to you just when we were talking before the podcast kind of kicked off, I don't know if this is entirely the case, but because I'm a big fan of Jack Morgan. But without him in the team, it does seem like it's almost like that kind of Munster effect to a certain degree, where they've kind of, they're bigger than the sum of the parts now. When Jack is on the pitch, it almost seems like they're turning to him and saying, like, Jesus, like, get us out of trouble here. Yeah. And without him there, you've had players like Wainwright step up. You've had a load of kind of these leaders emerge where in the past they were all looking at Jack Morgan. So let's just ask the question straight out. Are Wales better without Jack Morgan?
Short answer, no. I love Jack Morgan. He's outstanding. He's great. He's fantastic, right? It's like any team has got their like marquee key player that when shit is going wrong or when it's going south, everyone does. You do look to that player, like your Artie Savia for the All Blacks, Sasha Feinberg or Peter Steph du Toit for the Springboks. Like, you look to those guys, right? But on the other hand, I do see your argument where, okay, we don't have that guy anymore. We need to now look at each other and start coming up with those big moments. Like, but in saying that, man, Jack Morgan, it's in the 15, in the double-digit tackles. He's at least getting 2 or 3 turnovers a game. Carries through the roof. Like, his work rate is insane. I think his rapport with the refs is really good and has gotten better over time as well. And it's just that lead by example, man. So it's a I get both sides of the argument, but if I had to go for one side of it, I'm like, nah, Jack Morgan in there every day of the week.
Do you know, I think I agree with you, and I think probably the point that I'd kind of pull out of this isn't necessarily that Wales are better without Jack Morgan, but to a certain degree, I think they've really benefited from his injury. Yep. In terms of they now all know the level that they have to hit individually without him on the pitch. So hopefully when he comes back, he can add that extra gear and they can all kind of keep up with him. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So if you take those patches or that first half against Scotland, but then chuck Jack Morgan in there as well. And then let's, instead of 40 minutes, let's make that 60 minutes and then 70 minutes and then 80 minutes. And then you have those guys that I mentioned before starting to like play even better. And then more players get added to that list of, okay, we're stringing consistent good games together and have that domino effect of then all 15, all 23 are playing good rugby for 80 minutes. So, no,
Totally agree.
Sorry to interrupt, but if you could take this opportunity to hit subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. We're a little over a year now with the channel going, and we've been blown away by the response. We have one of the best rugby communities anywhere online, and it would be an absolute honour if you join us.
So let me ask then. So what do you think a successful tournament really for Wales is going to be? How do they finish out in the most kind of positive light? Do they need a win, or is this kind of good enough if they keep stringing together just better improved performances?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, a win would be great, and I really hope they do get a win. I don't see them getting a win versus Ireland. They're probably their only hope is that last game versus Italy, right? And I hope for them, for the players, for the fans as well. But on the flip side, I'm like, I also want Italy to win a game because they've been outstanding too. I don't think success for them at the moment is winning a game in the Six Nations. I think it's just being competitive. So building on that Scottish game where you only played well for 40, 50 minutes. Let's play well now for 60, 65 minutes or 70 minutes. You know what I mean? Or let's have our bench come on and have a bigger impact on the game. So I think it's far less results-based success-wise and far more just performance, just a better performance, man.
Absolutely. Look, I think you're spot on with Wales anyway. You know, I've always said that World Rugby is better when Wales are on their top. Do I want Wales to win the Six Nations? No, of course. I want Ireland to win it. But realistically, when you think back and they had the Alan Wynne Joneses and they had, you know, Dan Biggar at out half and they were really kind of bossing things and they were a tough team to come up against, especially in the Millennium Stadium as they proved against Scotland. You know, it's great viewing for everybody and it's healthy competition. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then the anthem is going. The people are like, it's outstanding. When Wales were in their peak, man, it was tough. But again, and I always say it, rugby's cyclical, right? Like everyone goes through the troughs and the highs and the lows, and like you're good, and then you're bad, and then you're good, and then you're bad. Some are a lot good for a longer period of time, and some are worse for a longer period of time. Like that cycle, that circle, it's always just going to come back around. And believe it or not, South African fans, like one day, Springboks might not be on top of the world anymore. At the moment, it doesn't. Look at me bringing this about talking in non-related stuff about the Springboks, but
very unlike Springbok fans, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying though? Like just reverting back to that,
Absolutely.
like rugby being cyclical. So Wales were really good for a long period of time. They're now in the troughs. They're now in the depths of it, and I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we'll keep moving up the table. So moving on to England next. Who would have thought that this is where we would be with England?
Yeah.
You know, like obviously heading into the tournament, my belief was, and I think a lot of people's was that final game against France was going to be the tournament decider.
Yep.
And now we're looking at England and they just seem to have capitulated.
Yep, absolutely. It's funny how quick narratives change in rugby, isn't it? Because they were going into the Six Nations. They were off the back of 11 or 10 game win streak.
I think it was 12, wasn't it? Yeah,
11 or 12. Yeah, the depth in their squad was outstanding. Like the names you can rattle off in the forwards, in the backs. Borthwick had been with the squad for such a long time. There's guys in there that have played 100 test caps. There's guys that are just coming in. So there's that good mix of experience and like new excitement coming in. But the win versus Wales kind of just flattered them a lot, and it boosted more of their ego that then kind of just flatlined, right, versus Ireland. And then it's just like it's just interesting and funny for me how quickly things can change.
Absolutely. Well, look, I suppose with the way that I was looking at it was as you said, they were on that 12-game kind of winning run. Borthwick ball was all I kept hearing. And it seemed like they really went away from that in the Ireland game in particular. It seemed like they really were second-guessing themselves. Obviously, you have such an established player like George Ford, just complete and utterly miss-kicking in the corner that really kind of let Ireland out of the hook at times. But I thought in general that they really should have done more Borthwick ball in terms of more high balls, like really target the scrum, the maul. They didn't really seem to do that for the first kind of 30 or so minutes. It was almost like they had so much eggs in the basket of this new young dynamic back row that they wanted to be mobile. I think Borthwick was saying in the interview before the match that they really wanted to kind of take the fight to Ireland, but it was almost like they lost their identity in doing that. Did you kind of see a similar thing?
See, I don't think I did. I think I saw. So what I saw versus Wales quickly, and then I'll get to my point why I'm bringing that up. Versus Wales, it was very structured. George Ford was kicking well, kicking tactically well. The up and unders, him and Alex Mitchell on point. Wingers are chasing through. The ball was in front of the forwards really well, like that. And then I think they brought that to versus Ireland, and that just wasn't working. But they kept on with it. And it was similar to what Ireland did versus France, right? Where they
absolutely
up
no
and
plan
unders,
B.
kicking, we're going to bang this dead horse and we're just going to keep doing the same thing. So my question around it was, firstly, where the leaders within the squad to realize, okay, whatever it is that we're doing is not working. Let's change that up. And then secondly, the Premiership, the Prem, which is all the English clubs, they play the most expansive style of rugby. Like you've got guys like, yes, defense sometimes is quite optional in the Prem, but these guys are scoring tries from everywhere on the field, right? You're getting high-scoring games. You've got exciting players. Max Ajomo, Fairway Bosso, he's been unlucky, he's been injured, but like there's the George Hendies. I know he hasn't been involved, but Tommy Freeman has been outstanding. Rindle that's come back, he's been really good in the Prem. So I'm like, you've got these exciting players. Why aren't we playing more that style? And I guess it also then leans towards like your forwards have to dominate first. You can pick the most exciting backline players. If your forwards aren't nailing your set piece and going forward, then the backs might as well not be on the pitch, right? So, like you said, they brought in like some of the youngsters in the forwards. And did they do their job to what was expected? Probably not. And it's hopefully a big learning curve for them. And it'll be very, very interesting to see what side gets put out for their next game for England. Because I've heard rumours already that he's apparently going to change the whole back line. I don't know if that was just a headline that I saw, but I did see that. So it'll be very interesting to see what Borthwick does there, or how he just goes about selections firstly, and then how they're going to play the game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting one, because the way that I look at England, and I've always seen England specifically under Borthwick, is that exact style. So even before the contestable kind of rule changed, England were often going to up and unders. They were often looking to kind of attack off a scrum. They had a really solid set piece. They kind of almost played defence first. You know what I mean? Like it was very much so territory rugby. Ping the ball back in behind, pin you there, and then capitalise on the pressure. And I just kind of thought against Ireland, it was almost like that pressure rugby kind of went out the window. It was almost like we're not going to stick to our bread and butter.
Yeah. And
that I kind of thought was really interesting. So you'd kind of wonder then, to a certain degree, is Borthwick, is he changing his own point of view? Is he kind of saying, we're not going to go so heavy on the contestables and what have you? Because I do think the point that you brought up there about kind of having a plan B, we obviously saw it in Ireland and France. The first 50 minutes of that game, it really took, it needed somebody to come onto the pitch and say, lads, what are we doing here?
What the fuck
this isn't working, scrap it, know? And I thought England, you're right, England were very similar. And you'd kind of wonder then, because obviously he brought on Jamie George quite early on, didn't he? He subbed off Luke Cowan-Dickie, I think it was around the 30th minute. And you'd kind of wonder then, is he almost looking to get him onto the pitch to kind of say, lads, we need to change things up,
do something. Hopefully there is some sort of like that. But again, I just don't. I don't know, because I've never played international rugby. I'm not on the pitch when things like that are happening. But I know when something isn't working, like you've got to change it. If you just, it's the definition of insanity to do the same thing expecting a different result. Like you're doing something, it's not working. Hold on a minute, let's change this. Let's change this. There's always still time to change it. And you can see pretty early on, whether it was England versus Ireland or Ireland versus France, you could see pretty early on that, okay, what we're doing here is not working. And let's just change that. And I think back to your point about that the England versus Ireland game, I think it was also a lot because Ireland put England under immense pressure. So like that also changes a lot of things, man. That gives the decision makers a lot less time to make decisions. You're thinking about so many more things. You could be defending more. You could be hitting more rucks. So you're a lot more tired to then make a sound decision or think of things further than what you've been told before kickoff. So there's a lot of factors that do go into it, but you expect people to, at that level, to be like, okay, this isn't working. Let's fucking change it. Even if the coach said this, like, no, he's not on the field now. Back me up here. Let's change this. Let's try something else.
Yeah, it's just the level there to be able to adapt to what's in front of you seems to kind of go out the window to a certain degree. You know, like, so let me just ask, because I've been quite critical of it in general in terms of, don't get me wrong, I think it suits England's style of play really well to go for those contestables. Like, they obviously have a very solid scrum, very solid set piece. They're very much so set up in a way that they can benefit off of that. Whereas Ireland, obviously, over the last couple of years, you've seen a lot of kind of quick hands, phase play, loop passes, all that kind of stuff. So it never really made sense to me from an Ireland point of view. But just you kind of having an outside perspective as a Springbok fan to a certain degree, are you a fan of this style of rugby in general in terms of going so kick heavy, or is it more you'd like to see it kind of go out the back line and stuff like that?
No, I get it. I understand it. I know why teams are doing it. You use it for, like, to apply pressure a different way. I also believe in that, like, there's 10 different ways to skin a cat, or what's the saying? I don't even know what the saying is. But there's a lot of different ways to win games. So you can see how teams are breaking the opposition down. And let's try this. If this isn't working, let's try something else. Or we're going to go in with this style. Let's see if that works out. So, and then let me quickly revert back to Leinster. This year in the URC have been very defense orientated, where last year they were very attacking. A lot of people have criticized them for that, but I'm like, they've got the attacking down pat. They could be working very hard on their defense, because let's be honest, like, defense wins those big games, right? So now you're looking at any other team where they could have, in their eyes, nailed one aspect of the game, but now we want to focus on a different point. And I'll bring it back to the South Africans. Like, they've had a kicking game for the longest time. You're now starting to see Tony Brown that's come in, and they're starting to throw the ball around. That's just adding a different point of attack, right? You can use the kick as an attacking point now, but you can also use your players and use your hands. And that also then, like, the defense or the opposition that you come up against, they're not going to know which style you're going to play, because you can play so many different styles. So it might be a bit of that for England. Do they have the players to do that? Not sure. Like, time will tell. And I think this next game for them is going to be so important. In Rome against Italy, that'll have their tails up. Oh man, you better pick the right game plan, because you could leave that stadium with your pants pulled down massively.
Absolutely. I think when we'll move on to Italy next. I think, just to answer your question, I do think England have the players, but I'd wonder, do they have the coach? That's kind of where I look at it. Like, Borthwick has put so many eggs in this basket, and now it seems like, oh shit, we actually need to change up a little bit here. And I don't know whether he's proven that he has the ability to do that. But in terms of, like, Alex Mitchell, be it George Ford, Marcus Smith, do these guys have the ability? I'm sure they have the ability to be able to flash the ball out wide. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
I think they need to get rid of George Ford.
I know he has. Yeah,
George Ford needs to go.
Do you know, I you'd have Finn Smith in there.
Yeah,
because I suppose it's it's that argument really in terms it's almost very similar to what we've seen with Ireland, where it's like there isn't necessarily that standout 10. Like they all have their points. Like George Ford is obviously experience kind of personified, but obviously to a certain degree that let him down. You know, like he didn't show a cool level head against Ireland. Finn Smith, it seemed like everybody was so mad about Finn Smith last year, obviously in the lead up to the Lions, and where is he this year? Do you know, he seems to have completely gone out of favour with Borthwick. And then obviously you have Marcus Smith, who's that little bit more established than Finn Smith, with a relatively equal amount of ability in terms of being able to kind of change the picture to a certain degree and kind of make something magic happen, do you know? But then is his best position at 10, or is it a fullback?
10, yeah,
do you know?
Yeah, and he's good to have off the bench.
One, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's good to have off the bench. But I think just Finn Smith just adds a little bit more, especially with ball in hand. He kicks well as well, so it's like kind of even in that regard, but he adds so much more in attack. And I think, and then like ceiling wise, because he's younger, like get him in there. I think that's the big change there for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we'll move on to Italy. We're almost there at Ireland now, and we'll kind of go through the whole kind of Andy Farrell saga over the last couple of weeks. But we'll move on to Italy first. So, have they firmly put to bed this? Because it seemed like it was almost in attachment with Italy as the team, this kind of idea that there could be a relegation system in the Six Nations. It seemed like there was people who were almost kind of like, Italy are so far below. Now it's Wales, and I don't think anybody really wants to see Wales drop out of the Six Nations. Has this been put to bed now? Is there no more kind of talk of rotation or relegation or anything like that in the Six Nations?
I think so, mate. They've been outstanding. Like it's been building for a long time. Like, you just look at some of the players that they've got now, like Cano, Lomaro, Zuliani, like Ross Vincent, Steve Varney, Garbisi, Coppozzo, like Minocello, Brex, like have gone forever. And when last have you had an Italian side where you could rattle off like 10 names most rugby people would be like, yeah, I know them and I would pick them in my team. Yeah. So I think
mostly it's been probably 2 or 3, do you know?
Yes, exactly right. It's been Parise and Castro Giovanni. Yeah. That's it for the longest time, right? Now I've just rattled off pretty much their whole team. And then Ferrari, Fischetti, like in the front row. So they've built a really strong squad that are going to be around for a while. These guys are all in their like mid-20s, absolute gun players. They're Treviso and Benetton, Zebra, they doing really well in the URC as well. I think anyone who comes in and says, "Oh, Italy need to promote really," get like, mate, that's clickbait right there. Like that's bullshit right there. You're not believing what you're saying if you're saying that. If you can look at this Italian side and how they've been playing, how the individual players have been playing as well, and believe yourself when you say like there should be promotion relegation, like. Nah, man, not because of them. They've been outstanding, especially this last 2-3 years.
Absolutely. And is there any player that's kind of stood out to you most? So for me, like there's so many players in that Italian team that you've named out there, but there's one that you didn't that's really stood out to me, and that's Lewis Lina. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. He's added that kind of, I don't know what it is. It's almost like a bit of grit. It's like, I'm not going to give up and I'm going to keep going. Whereas at times we've seen with these kind of Italian teams over the years, they're good for 40, 50, 60 minutes. And it seems like he's kind of taken them to a certain degree to a new level. Now, obviously, all the other players have as well. It really is kind of a team effort that we're seeing from them. But who stood out most to you from the Italians at the moment?
Oh, Tommaso Minocello. He is just outstanding. Like, I think he's only 22, 23 years old. His ability to just break the line, to always get over that vantage line, always can create something from nothing. His defensive reads as well in the midfield there, like outstanding. He could play. It's like having another back rower on the field too. He's a big body. And just anytime he touches the ball, he also adds that little bit of excitement as well. He's good looking too. That obviously helps heaps. Man, most of that Italian side are good looking, let's be honest. But I think Minocello, man, it lives and breathes what it means to be an Italian player, and he's leading the charge there. Like Lomaro is really good as well. And I just think they all kind of feed off each other. They're all super passionate about their side, their country too. But man, you could name honestly any one of those guys, and you'd be like, "Yep, he's the reason why they're doing so well at the moment, because they are really doing good."
Well, you're right. I mean, like Manicello in particular, like he's already won, Six Nations Player of the Year at such an early age. He just, I think there's probably, I don't think there's another team that he wouldn't be able to get into. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's an argument there. Right. Like, obviously, you'd have Mofana there in France. Yep. Like, obviously, Stuart McCluskey's had a fantastic campaign with Ireland. But he'd be an asset to every nation.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen. Moving on to Ireland. So it, like, I don't even know where to begin. It was such a reason why I wanted to kind of get your perspective on things, because I think I'm a little bit too close to it. But you can kind of offer a fresh set of eyes. So. Where do you see, I suppose, the actual campaign itself? Like, how does it even rank? How do you even make sense of it?
It is an interesting one, right? Like, so I put out a video before the Six Nations saying that Ireland are still the ones being hunted, right? And I got lots of pushback on that, because everyone, oh, no, we're in a rebuilding phase, we're like whatever. And I still believe that this squad, this Irish squad, you look at it on paper, it's up there. It is outstanding, right? You've got some of the best players in the positions, like going about, right? Especially in that forward pack. Yes, probably in the backs is where you definitely would be lacking. But in that forward pack, for sure, your Josh Van der Vliers, your Dan Sheehan's, Tyke Byrne, Caelan Doris, like some of the best players in world rugby. But then, like, the first game happens. And you're like, shit.
And it did happen. Maybe. We can't just pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah, that first game happens, and how they played as well. And I'm sitting thinking, like, well, you've got this squad, and we know what they can do when they play a certain way, that Irish way, right? Where they get momentum, they get a roll on. It's the neat plays, it's execution, it's timing of running. Jamison Gibson Park has the ball on the platter. Prendergast or Crowley's at the line. He's got options left and right. And they just did nothing. They didn't do any of that. And I thought, well, this is very interesting, okay? Let's see how it plays out. Obviously didn't play out well. Then there was tons of question marks, right? And this is, again, comes back to that narrative of how quickly things can change. Then I'm starting to, I was the leading the charge in that, starting to question everything. I'm like, okay, well, is the squad that good? Should they bring more players in? Where's the X factor when things aren't happening? Who are you looking to spark something? And I felt like in that first game, Ireland didn't have that. Then you go to the Italy game where you bring in Balakoon comes in. He did end up starting, right?
Yeah.
He comes in. Yeah. James Lowe then came in and played really well. And you're like, okay, this is a bit better. Still not kind of there yet, but this is a lot better. This is more the Irish side we come to enjoy watching, right?
Yeah.
Then the England game happens. And you're like, yes, boy, this is it. Where has this been? Why didn't we play like this against France? I'm saying we. I get so passionate about it. But, like, why aren't you playing like this? Why didn't you play like that against France? Like, why has that changed? Selections maybe, like, but then you're going from 1 week where you didn't have guys that can pull something from nothing to now where Balakoon, one of the most exciting players, like, get him the ball. Tommy O'Brien, when he came on, I'm like, where's that been the whole time? Jack Crowley, like, there's that whole debate around Sam Prendergast, Jack Crowley. I think Jack Crowley is the man going forward now. That might have been the little bit of the change that has then bred confidence around the whole group. Well, I still think it is still a whole team effort that creates that, right? But there's like just how quickly things have changed again. So coming back to it, I still haven't made sense of this Six Nations yet. Other results of other games, right? It's not necessarily just in Ireland's hands at the moment. They're relying on other results to happen. Maybe now Farrell has gone, okay, well, let's give some more guys game time, so that we're building for like the Nations Cup, the Autumn Nations Series, and then next year the World Cup. So it's still, to answer your question, I went on a big roundabout to get there. I don't know. Yeah. It still hasn't made sense to me what kind of their end goal is for the Six Nations. You obviously want to win it, but that's not in their hands at the moment. They can only do what they can do, which is win their next 2 games, but they're also relying on other results. So yeah, I'm not too sure, but I'm like, there's excitement there. You're going off their last game. Yeah. There's Ireland is there. It's there. Like, let's just keep doing that.
Yeah, I think honestly the biggest positive for me, because I've been pretty negative on Ireland leading up to this. I was not in the same boat as you heading into the Six Nations. I wasn't looking at Ireland as being hunted. I definitely thought we were the hunters. I really thought in the last. I suppose it would have been since Farrell has taken the break away with Lions. We looked like we had lost a bit of identity. That type of play, as you said, that kind of the phase play, the pod play, the loops, the keeping it ticking over, everything that you've come to learn to love from Ireland, I hadn't seen in 12, 14, 16, 18 months even. And it started for me to become very frustrating watching, because I knew what we were capable of. And it just seemed like Farrell, similar to Borthwick, was putting a lot of eggs in that up and under contestable basket. And it was kind of like, lads, I don't think we're not flogging a dead horse when it comes to the phase play. It's not over and done with. It's not dead and buried. There's still something there. You can tweak the tactics a small degree in terms of, I suppose, kind of going for these contestables and what have you. But in the right moments, this shouldn't be plan A. And I think we've really seen that this tournament in particular, where you've seen Ireland go to it for plan A against France. You saw England go to it to a certain degree, against Ireland.
Yeah.
And it didn't hold up at all. It just felt like, because to me, my biggest criticism of that kind of play was that it just seems too much of a lottery ticket. You're talking about these 50-50s, but they're not ever really 50-50s. When you come to, France, South Africa, England, 9 times out of 10, they win the 50-50s. Yeah. It's not 50-50 if they're winning it 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I think the biggest positive to me is to see that Farrell has pivoted, because I think he really did pivot in that England game. I think he looked at what happened in France and kind of thought, we can't do this again. We can't play into their hands when it comes to the contestables. Yeah. And we did see a lot more of Crowley coming in. And just to confirm as well, you are kind of an adopted Leinster fan as well. Yeah. So for you to say that Crowley should be in there as well, it's not me saying it this time. But I think Crowley came in and made a lot more solid, stellar decisions. They were just a lot more kind of keeping it ticking over. It wasn't necessarily huge, big, flashy plays or trying to force something to happen. It was just trusting the process to a certain degree. So I think it was really good to see that.
Yeah, and he wasn't overplaying his hand as well. I think Sam Prendergast was, again, in that boat of like, shit, I'm making a mistake here. I need to rectify that. I need to get my hands on the ball. I need to try something. And it just wasn't working. Where Crowley, a lot further on in he's obviously a little bit older and a little bit like level-headed, and he would have come in with like, okay, just compose. I'm just going to get through my work here. It also helped that Ireland went forward. To all the people that gave me shit about that, like, yes, your team has to go forward for a fly-off. It's easy as, if your team is going forward, honestly, you could have a blind person playing fly-off, okay?
Yeah.
It's so much easier, right? But in saying that, Crowley was also he was so smart about how he went about his business. Just not overplaying his hand. He also let Gibson Park do what he does best, which is playing off 9. Like Gibson Park coming out and picking those right options. He's so good at that. Crowley only came in when he needed to. Kicked, yes, off the tee wasn't the best, but kicked when he needed to. And I think his touches was really good. That intercept pass, that could have... Oh, man, if that was Sam Prendergast throwing that, we would never hear the end of it, right? But Stuart McCluskey saves the day there. So there was still, it's definitely not the finished product, for the 10 jumper. But I think at the moment, keep Sam out of the limelight, keep Crowley there, and just keep Frawley on the bench, maybe Harry Byrne on the bench, and just let Crowley cook. If he's playing, even if he makes mistakes, like, let the man play. Like Ronan O'Gara said it perfectly. It's like, we're not allowing these youngsters to make mistakes. Like, it's okay to make a mistake, right? Obviously, if you're making too many, get someone else in, but we can't put that much pressure on these guys that they're not still going out there to try and do something, right? Because then you lose your ability as a player. Like, you have a structure, right? But if you see something, you don't want a player to second guess himself. You want him to take the gap or the chip kick or the skip pass or whatever it is. So you want to keep that fine line, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just to even go back to your point, I think you saw that perfectly with the intercept when Marcus Smith got the intercept off of Crowley. I've seen Crowley so many times in Munster throw a dummy there and run. And he didn't. It was almost kind of like, because he was in that headspace of, I just want to keep things ticking over. I don't want to insert myself too much on the game. It was almost kind of like, no, there's a gap. Take it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that, I've always maintained that, especially at out half, and there's two positions on a rugby pitch that you do not want to keep changing. It's out half and your captain. You need those two to be consistent. And especially when, I mean, like you're talking about Crowley's kicking kind of off the tee. I mean, like, he went 5 from 7. Like, he had a touchline conversion there. It wasn't a particularly poor game. But that's the narrative in Ireland at the moment, is that Crowley can't kick, Prendergast can't tackle. It's all negative. And none of it is kind of building up the positives. And I think a huge amount of that, I do think Andy Farrell has to take responsibility for it. Because I personally, I don't know how much of the content you've seen me put up over the last while, I've always maintained that Prendergast was brought in too early. And it didn't necessarily kind of stick to what we were expecting as Ireland fans, that you kind of have to build up a certain reputation before you get that Irish jersey. It felt like Sam was kind of thrown in there. And it felt like, for me anyway, I saw this happening. I called it from day one, where I said, you're going to piss off a huge amount of the country, a huge amount of the kind of the fan base by putting Prendergast in there before he's necessarily ready, and it's going to be detriment to Prendergast. And that's who I actually cared about. It wasn't, the Munster-Leinster kind of bias or anything like that. It was just the fact that I was looking at Prendergast saying, he's a really talented kid, and I think if you put him in there with all this pressure on his shoulders, he's going to walk away from it potentially feeling the pressure of that. And I think that's what we saw against France, against Italy. He looked like a shell of the player that came onto the scene a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely. He just come in like so tight into himself, so scared to make a play or to make a mistake as well. Man, it's tough because you want to bring the youngsters through, right? You like the ceiling, and people talk about the ceiling of players. The ceiling on Prendergast, and I believe this, it's really high. Okay, he's outrageously skillful. There's certain aspects of his game that he needs to work on, like 95% of players. Not everyone is 100% right. He's still young within his career. It was almost, I feel like it was a like throw to the deep end. Let's see if you can swim. And I think because he is a quality player, he was treading. He wasn't swimming. He was just treading. So he'd have a good like a good game, and then a not so good game, and then all right game. And for the longest time, they would have Prendergast would play for 40 minutes or 50 minutes, then Crowley would come on. Prendergast wouldn't have the best game. Crowley would come on and he would make things happen. Then the narrative would change to, Crowley has to start. Then maybe Crowley would start and he wouldn't have the best game. Then Sam would come on and he would make 2 or 3 things happen. Then it's like, Sam Prendergast needs to start. So coming back to your thing where, yes, you need to pick a 10 and kind of stick with him, right? But you still need to be able to have someone that can come off the bench and do a job when needed. The whole thing with Sam Prendergast, maybe it was too young, maybe it wasn't. I think he's going to learn a lot from it. Social media and fucking all of that, it must be tough, man. it must be tough.
Yeah.
Players from old didn't have to deal with that. Like now, they just had to deal with the newspaper and the news maybe. But now it's just every Tom, Dick and Harry, as they say. Like it's to the point with the whole Sam Prendergast thing. You can post anything about Irish rugby and someone is going to say something about Sam Prendergast.
Yeah.
I'm just like, where? Yeah. What? Like, why? Like, leave the kid alone, man. So it's tough. I'm glad. Yeah. I think the right thing to do now is that they've taken him out of the limelight. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can, like, at the end of the day, Andy Farrell is kind of the one to blame because no one else picks the team. Maybe the other coaches within the setup, but he's the main guy there, right? So whether he brought him in too soon, it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough one, that.
Yeah. Look, I just personally, I've made my thoughts very clear on it. You know what I mean? I really do think that, like you said, he was thrown in the deep end, and I didn't think there was a need to do that. There wasn't this crying need at the end of a Six Nations winning campaign with Crowley in there to get a new out half in there.
Yeah,
it didn't seem like that at all, and it seemed like it would have really played to the strengths of bringing Sam on 20 minutes at the end of the game if you need something to happen, because he had that ability to come in and attack the lines. You know what I mean? So yeah, personally, I do think the fact that Farrell did get it wrong, and I think a huge amount of it, as you said there, in terms of kind of like, you know, people attacking Sam and everything else and it going over the top. I think a huge amount of that does boil down to the whole Munster-Leinster kind of rivalry and the kind of inter-provincial setup in Ireland, and people might necessarily feel a little bit begrudging towards the IRFU and how many players from each province are in there. And it just seemed a little bit tone deaf for Farrell to kind of plonk Sam Prendergast in there and expect everyone to get like this kind of whole thing where he came out and said, "Are we not all Irish fans?" And it was kind of like, Andy, I don't think you are understanding this. Do you know what I mean? Like there's Irish fans who will fight each other as well. Do you know what I mean? Everybody has their own tribe, you know?
You get what he's trying to say there. Because at the end of the day, you are all Irish. Like, you all want Ireland to do well. You want them to win, regardless of who's playing. But I will say, I have noticed that there is, regardless of who's playing, but no, sometimes there is a big issue with who is playing, regardless of the results as well. Like, even if Ireland are winning, it's like, well, we could have won more if X, Y, and Z was playing. So I understand that as well, but man, it's tough. Because I'm obviously South African, where with the Springboks, yes, we like Stormers, Sharks, Bulls, but man, when the Springboks play, the whole everyone is Springboks, right?
Yeah.
So that's a whole different ball game, and I feel like it's the same with New Zealand, same with Australia as well, where in New Zealand they're like Crusaders, Blues, Hurricanes, but when the All Blacks play, everyone's the fucking All Blacks. So it is an interesting one.
I don't think we've crossed that line in Ireland just yet. Because I'll tell you, like, when it comes to other sports, when it comes to soccer, when it came to the early days of Conor McGregor before he turned into Conor McGregor, there was a huge amount of it was Irish support. Do you know what I mean? You see it at the Olympics and stuff like that. You get these kind of notorious Irish fans. Even the last World Cup, it seemed way more cohesive as a nation. I didn't think there was as much kind of interprovincial kind of tribalism and stuff like that, but it's definitely, it seems to have really kind of reared its ugly head over the last while, you know. But look, sure. I suppose where do you think Ireland kind of end up in terms of the end of this? So like if we beat Scotland, we beat Wales, we'll go home with a triple crown, possibly in second to France. That's the way that I think I'm looking at this from an Irish fan, of how to gather up a small bit of kind of, you know, respect after the opening game against France, which, make no mistake about it was abysmal. So to kind of bounce back from that and to end this campaign positively, I think is massive. I think to see, as I said, Farrell kind of pivot a small bit and go back to what we've seen work for Ireland quite well. Would you see it similarly if Ireland end up with a triple crown?
Yeah, that'll be obviously massive. But I think dominant performances as well. Like, you don't want to just scrape past Wales. You don't want to go from smoking England to only just beating Wales. Like, you want to go, even if, because it's at the Principality, is it? Or is it in Ireland?
No. I think that's a home. I think that could be in the Aviva. I have to double check.
Yeah.
It. So someone let us know in the comments. Anyway.
Yeah. Regardless, you want to go in and put a dominant performance on there. Mm-hmm. I still think there's going to be an upset somewhere in the rest of the Six Nations, right? And Scotland, if Scotland go out and get a job done over France, you could look at that last round being a make or break, and you could still see something massively happen here. That's obviously, there's a lot of ifs involved in that. Yeah, but for what Ireland can control, I think 2 dominant performances. Firstly versus Wales, and then versus Scotland, I wouldn't say it's a bogey team, but it's 2 very similar teams at the moment in like with regards to the performances they're putting out on the pitch, going at it. So that'll be, I think, 2 big dominant performances. Like, then yes, happy days.
Well, I think you've led us perfectly there to the next segue. So we'll move on to Scotland. So my question for you with Scotland, because it just feels like every year it's like, this is our year. It's almost like following Arsenal in the Premier League. It's like, this is going to be our year. And then at some stage they end up with a bit of pie in the face. Yep. And this year seemed like from the get-go that it wasn't going to be their year. And then they came out and they absolutely put in a fantastic performance against England. And now there's all this kind of, to kind of go back to your earlier point about kind of, cycles in rugby and how quickly the narrative changes. There seems like there's constantly a question in the background. So what do you think? Whereabouts is Townsend's ceiling? Is this about as far as he can bring Scotland? Or do you think that do you think they need to change up from a coaching perspective?
He's been involved now for a while, right? I think it's his second cycle with regards to a World Cup. So I think he's had enough time with a Scottish squad that is on paper the best squad they've ever had. Let's be honest quickly. You look at some of the names in there, how they're playing. You got Glasgow, who recently won a URC as well. Edinburgh, Glasgow, they're doing really well in the URC. And the individual players throughout that squad. You got Finn Russell, who's winning Prems with Bath. There's quality in that squad, right? For him not to do well or not to do better than what he's done previously, you have to be like, okay, well, maybe he's run his course with the squad now. Maybe they need a new perspective, someone else to come in and take the squad to that new level, because you do get a ceiling. Like, one day it's going to happen with Rassie Erasmus. It'll happen with Borthwick. I think it's slowly happening with Borthwick. It'll probably happen with Andy Farrell as well, where, like, this is it. I can't get much more out of the squad. So I think so. Like, you're looking at, you talk maybe then about other options, like Franco Smith, the head coach of Glasgow, South African fella. For him to take Glasgow to win a URC, I think they won it in South Africa. Yeah. Like, man, that doesn't happen every day, right? So when you talk about winning mentality as well, where Scotland have really struggled with that, where on a dime, yes, they can pull something from nothing and just beat someone, and you're like, holy shit, where did that come from? But then games where they're expected to win, then they'll go out and lose that as well. They haven't haven't really been like that team that can go out there and perform week in, week out. But I think, yes, to answer your question, I think this is his ceiling. Look, if he goes on to beat France next weekend, then again, that narrative changes. Then it's like, sign Townsend forever. Like, just let him coach forever, right? Because then they're in line to win the Six Nations. They haven't won the Six Nations yet. The last time they won was 5 nations. So, the question, like, to answer it right now, yes, I think
I'll tell you what, let me ask you a very direct question on it. Would you change Townsend at the end of this Six Nations? Because it seems like, just on your point, it seems like I reckon there's going to be a huge amount of turnover, kind of international coach-wise, post the World Cup.
World Cup, yeah.
So it seems like Farrell's out of contract. Yep. You can't, like, a lot of the talk seems to be that all these people who are unhappy with their coach for whatever reason are still going to leave them there until the World Cup, because it might do more damage damage than good.
So
would you change? So let's assume Scotland, they finish third or fourth again this year.
I don't think they'll change him. Not this close to the World Cup. I don't think so. Because I think, didn't he? No, I've read that wrong. No, I don't think they'll change him.
Would you want him changed? I would. Though? I don't think they will either.
Say again.
No, I agree with you. I don't think the Scotland will change him. But would you want to let's put your Scotland hat on for a second? Yeah. Would you want to see him changed if they finish third again?
Yeah, because what are you just going to keep finishing third and then that's fine? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it is a results-based business, right? And you want results. Again, coming back to my point where I said Scotland, the Scottish squad is the strongest squad they've ever had and will ever have for a while. This is it, right? Like you're not getting another Finn Russell coming through. You're not getting another Tui Pelotu or Hugh Jones coming through, Rory Dodge. So you're expecting to get results here. So I would love to see Franco Smith involved. But I don't see that. Yeah, I don't see someone doing an All Blacks and just getting rid of Razor 2 years out of
that
the
was
World Cup.
Crazy when it happened.
Wild.
To be fair, because like that for such an established nation to do. It almost seems like it's YouTubers who are saying change Andy Farrell, change Townsend, change whoever, and it kind of seemed like it was almost like the YouTube mentality got through to the All Blacks and teams,
Yeah, and that's what I said. I was like, and I got heaps of hate for it as well. I'm like, what's the circus? Like, what is going on here? One of the biggest rugby brands, if not one of the biggest sporting brands in the world, right? The All Blacks, and there was leaked info about YouTubers knew about the sacking before they announced it. So I'm like, what was going on here? So that was chaos. So and again, we're also social media and content creators and stuff we also can lead the narrative a lot of times with regards to that because everyone engagement, controversy, hot topics. So man, it's cool, but it's a very fine line as well. So it's fun, man. It's fun. It's great. I don't think they'll change him.
I know it well, pal.
I don't think they will change him. They will probably I would love to see a upset versus France. It's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to go on to lose versus France and then lose versus Ireland as well, and then they just back at third or fourth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I think again another perfect segue. Then we'll finish with France. So the whole narrative heading into this one from a French perspective was Galtier's decision to drop Aldrit, Pinot, Gelfiku, and it seemed like he went so heavy on form over experience. So I have two questions. First, was he correct? It seems like he was very correct in doing so. So should the other nations follow suit? Is that what we're seeing? Are we seeing form really kind of take precedent in international rugby over experience now?
So I think yes and no. France can do it right because you look at the top 14 and the quality across the board in the top 14. From 18 years old, you've got 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds that are coming through and just absolutely they're monstering other teams within the top 40 or just individual performances as well. Talk about Gael Fickou, almost 100 caps for France, doesn't get included. Then they bring in these youngsters that are 20 years old. I've never heard of these guys before. They start showing some of their highlights while they're on their top 14 highlights. And then they start reading off some of their stats, they're all leading in line breaks, in try assists, and they're only 20 years old. And that has transferred into the international stage where these guys are getting opportunity and absolutely killing it. Then you're looking at Damien Penaud, one of the all-time great finishers, doesn't get included. Adesogbe gets the jump there, and he's been outstanding as well. His aerial ability, out of this world. He can play fullback really well. His work rate off the ball, I think that's what trumps him over Penaud. Penaud's quite lazy on his kick chase Aerially, not the best, but I will say when he gets the ball in hand, he's a good finisher. But Adesogbe just adds that point of difference there. And then in the forwards with Aldrit, this one was probably my biggest question mark there. But then I've started to see how he's structured the forward pack. So you've got the back rowers, right? So it wasn't even Giard and Olivan are back rowers, but they were playing lock. So he's essentially playing with 5 back rowers. Then it's like Jigu, Geelonge, and that Gross. That's their back row, right? With the other guys there. And those guys are all super mobile. I'm not saying Aldrit isn't mobile. I think Aldrit is a lot more physical and a lot more abrasive when he carries the ball. These guys are super mobile, are getting through so much work, hitting that many breakdowns, carries, clean outs, just being that support player as well. And that kind of leans towards the style of play that they're playing too. It's that free-flowing, it's that throw the ball around, it's that we need to adapt to turnover ball because our backs are going to throw the ball, we're going to play, we need guys to be there to secure the ruck or to be a support player. So, yes, if France went out and lost any of these games, you'd be like, oh, fuck, he's an idiot. But they haven't. They've come out and absolutely dominated, haven't got out of third gear, I don't think. So all of these decisions, all of those selections, I'm like, well done, man. He's done really well.
100%, and I suppose just to play devil's advocate, because I've heard so many positives about France.
Yep.
And the reality of it is that France are still without a World Cup.
Yep.
And they've probably been a little bit underwhelming when you think of the amount of quality players that they've had for probably the better part of a decade now. They've very much so played second fiddle to Ireland in the Six Nations. They haven't performed at World Cup time. You look at someone like Dupont, and he's such I suppose kind of a once in a lifetime talent, and for him to kind of walk away from international rugby with probably as few trophies as is currently the case, at what stage do you look at Galtier and kind of say, you're fantastic, kind of like Townsend, like you've built something really good here, but you're not taking us where we want to be.
That is a fair point. Again, if they go out and win the Six Nations this year, then it could be okay, he's done well. I think their main issue comes around when an opposition metaphorically punches them in the face. When they get met with brute physicality, your set piece isn't working, your line out is getting trashed, you're on the back foot. Then that's when in the World Cup to South Africa, they got punched in the face, lose that. Autumn Nation Series against South Africa, even against South Africa that played with less players on the field. They got physically, in the set piece, they got punched in the face. And that's when they seem to they don't know what to do then. In the Six Nations at the moment, no one has really punched them in the face. No one has taken them to that. Okay, let's come down here into the deep water. Let's see if you can swim down this side. No one has done that yet. I really hope Scotland can do that. But Ireland didn't do that in that first game.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Then who was it? Wales? No, they weren't an option there. Who did they? Then was it? Who was it? England? No,
it was Italy then. Yeah.
Italy. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. And then that was no. So, in points, in some parts of the game, maybe those teams did, but no one for a full 80 minutes has taken, the last team to do that was South Africa, and they lost that game.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest, you want to take France and metaphorically punch them in the face, and let's see if you can play now.
You're absolutely spot on. I mean, historically speaking, when you attack France, they do have a history of retreating. You know, so it's it's going to be a thing. I do think that England match is still going to be really interesting to see, because if Borthwick comes out with what we expect of England in terms of that kind of brute carry and that punch in the face, as you said, I do think it could throw a spanner in the works against France in particular.
Absolutely.
So just, I suppose, kind of predictions wise for the end of the Six Nations, do you see it as France clear winners?
No. Something's happening. Something is the directors. The directors of rugby are sitting somewhere now, and they're busy scripting it out. There's something else is going to happen. I just feel it. Something else is going to happen. Look, obviously, like, yes, France are favourites, right? But I would love just let the rugby gods play. Let something else happen.
Absolutely, Joe. I think it's been such a crazy tournament that anything can happen at this stage. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've seen it all so far. Probably bar France, as you said, really coming up against a true test. So hopefully we do see that in the closing stages of it. And just, I suppose, kind of speaking as a South African fan then, heading into this new Nations Championship in the summer, have you taken away, has anything changed your perspective really? Were you thinking differently of any team before this Six Nations?
England, probably the biggest one, where I was like, okay, there's maybe something there, but nah. Like, I hate to say, I like my biggest thing around my reviews and talking about rugby is I'm unbiased, right? I say what I feel regardless of who I support. But at the moment, I don't see anyone off the back of the last performance that I saw South Africa play. I don't see anyone in the Six Nations now testing that. Probably that Ireland, that performance versus England, yes, that could test the Springboks. But nah, I don't think anything changed.
What about France? Have France offered anything? Have they stepped up a gear since he played them last year?
I think they've stepped up a gear. It's still not. I don't think it's that gear is big. They might have gone from third to just a fourth. They haven't gone like fifth, sixth.
Yeah.
I'm talking like there's more gears than just your standard car. But I don't know, man. Just that physicality point of it. Like, you can have all the kicks that you want. You can have all the neat plays. Rugby, at the end of the day, is getting over the advantage line and stopping the opposition from getting over the advantage line. And whoever does that the best wins games. That's just it. And at the moment now, like, when that Springbok team is on, fucking hell, that's tough, man. And I'm saying this with, like, the most unbiased. I'm trying to be unbiased here, but that's just 100%, what I believe.
Because I think I'd be able to kind of offer, like, as I said to you, the reason that I thought this would be a really good conversation is because you can offer an unbiased perspective on the Six Nations, kind of looking in, whereas I'm often, called biased for being a Munster fan. I probably lean a little bit more towards, it's not that I feel like I am unbiased. I know I'm biased. I grew up in Munster. I grew up in Limerick. It's deep within me. Do you know what I mean? To be a Munster fan. So I'm not going to pretend like it's not. We get a lot of kind of, journalists here in Ireland that claim to be unbiased. I just didn't want to kind of lean into that at all. I kind of said, you know what, I'm a Munster fan, and that's the way that I'm going. Do you know what I mean? But from looking at at the Springboks over the last while, they've been phenomenal. You are correct.
I think you're not being, like, truthful if you're looking at how the Springboks have been playing the past few games, and, like, not believing the hype around it, because, man, they've been really good.
100%. And I think it's just, like, as you said at the start, in terms of cycles, it's now, I suppose, if you go back 2 years ago, you would have looked at the peak of Ireland and the phase play and everything else. They really seemed kind of form-wise to be that number one team, whereas the Springboks over the last year or two have really taken that mantle from Ireland. And I think this Nations Championship, be it, it probably is a little bit kind of manufactured in terms of, like, the rivalries and stuff like that. Like, I don't think there's going to be many Irish fans who are cheering on England against the All Blacks. Do you know what I mean? I don't see the whole kind of hemisphere thing as strongly as maybe World Rugby did. But it'll still produce some really interesting matches.
Absolutely.
And I'm really looking forward to that one. So just before we let you go, Dane, again, another thing, I suppose it interests me, and it's a huge amount of what I do kind of YouTube-wise, is I just kind of bank that whatever I find interesting, I hope the audience find interesting as well, and I've just kind of trusted that. So talk to me a little bit about you getting into kind of rugby on YouTube as well. How was your kind of journey into where you are with Kick On Rugby and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I started just a normal podcast, talking to just people I thought interesting. Like, it wasn't rugby at all. Yes, I would still speak to some rugby people, but rugby just always there, right? And then it got to the point where I was struggling to create content, which would be unbelievable, where now I'm like, just every day I can just push out so much content. But it was really I was really finding it hard to create content around things that, while I was interested in those things, I didn't have much knowledge around it. And the 2023 World Cup came around, and I thought, well, I'm going to be talking about it a lot. I watch a lot of rugby. Let's just go all in on just rugby. So I did that. 2023, it would have been just before the Rugby Championship started, so maybe just after the Six Nations. And it was just rugby. I've grown up watching rugby. I watch all rugby. I'll wake up at 2:00 in the morning to watch a Leinster game, to watch a Premiership rugby game that I think is going to be a good game to watch the European Champions Cups. Like, I used to wake up at those times to watch that anyway. And I thought, well, then I started seeing, like, okay, well, I was just doing Spotify firstly. And then I was like, well, no, there's YouTube as well. And I'm like, okay, well, let me get into that. And then I can use that as well on Instagram and do the little shorts. I obviously got a lot better as that rolled on as well. And like I said, I've been doing this now for almost 3 years and posting every single day. I would record for YouTube maybe 2, 3, 4 times a week, and a maximum about 10, 15-minute videos. And off that, I would take about 2 or 3 per video into shorter little clips and put that out onto TikTok, Instagram, Facebook as well. And it kind of just grew from there. I've started collabing where I'll get players on and speak with her. That's probably the one point the one point of difference that I'm trying to make now is not just solely be me. Try and get some players involved as well, which is good to get a player's perspective on games. But man, it's just been going from there, and it's been fun figuring it all out. I edit and record and do all of that stuff. I don't have a team behind me. I do have my dad every now and then will throw a few headlines at me, a few hot topics to talk about because he loves his rugby as well. But other than that, man, I just go for it. Like I told you before we started recording, I've got content going out and I've already got content ready for the next day. Like, I'm just on to the next one. And it's just rugby. I just love it.
Yeah, it's a funny bug to kind of get because I think it's really interesting, even though obviously we have such different backgrounds in terms of, Ireland, you're living in Australia, but you're a South African fan. Like we've such different kind of backgrounds to the sport, but and to YouTube in general. Like I came into it as kind of a graphic designer. So I picked something. I was interested in doing YouTube, so I kind of thought, I'm going to pick something that I know about. So I'm just going to pick rugby. It's all I've always loved rugby, similar to you. Like I've always watched all the games. I've always lived and breathed rugby. So I'll do my stuff around that, and I kind of get into it that way. But I think it's so funny that once you start finding the different pieces of the puzzle to put together in terms of YouTube, in terms of the editing, I'm very similar. Like I obviously don't have a team behind me. It's all me doing everything between the editing, the audio recording, even kind of linking in with someone like you to kind of set up this this podcast and stuff like that. And I think you can really kind of get bitten by a bug of doing that and trying to make that better as well. And it's funny how you can kind of stem from a love of rugby, but then just go so headfirst into kind of YouTube content creation and stuff like that. Because another thing that really stood out to me from your content as well is I used to hear people talk about being a content creator or a YouTuber or this, that and the other, And my immediate reaction was like, oh, you're full of shit.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
just a complete and utter narcissist. You're
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lunatic. Like,
Yeah.
and it was only when I started to see people where I was kind of like, oh no, he seems like a normal guy. Do you know what I mean? I can have a chat with him.
Yeah, yeah.
It was only then when I was kind of like, do you know what? I think I'm going to give this a go. Not
Yeah.
everybody who does this is, blogging what they're having for breakfast.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
people
that's
actually have something to say, you know?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's funny, man. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, because that's, I guess, that fine
Well, listen,
line again.
thank you so much.
Yep.
No, sorry, fire away then. Yeah.
No, it's just that line again of like what sort of content you're going to be in and what sort of person you're going to be. I try my best to be me the whole time. Like there's no show
Authentic,
here. This isn't a different person. I'm this energetic when I talk about rugby all the time. I coach the local university first grade here. And when I'm coaching them, I'm animated. I'm like this all the time. The Afrikaans, the South African comes out in me as well when I get angry. So like, man, there's no show here. It's just, this is just it the whole time.
100%, and that's why I wanted to kind of have this chat more so than anything. And I think hopefully a couple of my followers, I'm going to leave a link in the description to your YouTube. If you want to leave a link for your Instagram or anything like that, by all means. I think anybody who watches my content would certainly get on great with your content as well. Like you've such a plethora of knowledge for rugby, and like that, as you said, just your love of the game really does shine through the videos. So like it's fantastic to see. It's been such a pleasant conversation. I really do appreciate you taking the time then. So thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Oh, cheers, mate. I appreciate you reaching out firstly, and then for the the compliments. Like, what, do you want to be my wife now as well? Or no, mate, I appreciate.
No,
that.
I have one already, and believe me, one is enough.
Yeah, that's it. No, I appreciate the kind words, man, and back at you. And I've only since you've reached out, I've only then started to check out some of your content, and it's awesome. I love like your different points of views, and again, everyone has got their point of view. Go with it. If you don't like it, say your bit or move on. All right, don't be nasty. Yeah. Don't be nasty, man. Everyone's got their own opinions and stuff like that. We all just love the game of rugby. That's the base of everything, right? So that's it. I really appreciate you giving me the platform, man. I appreciate it.
No worries at all, Dan. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Mind yourself. Thanks so much.
Cheers, guys.